Banh mi, bao, soldiers, pho. Roll in and stamp out that hunger. Feeling fresh, tasty value. That's how we roll. Rolled. Fast, fresh Vietnamese. Order yours today in-store, online or download the Rolled app.
Dwayne's World with Dwayne Russell on SEN.
It's Midday Madness time. Jump on the line, 1300 736 736 on the open line, brought to you by Werribee Kia, Australia's number one selling dealership 3 years running. The open line, 1300 736 736. If you haven't been part of Midday Madness before, you call, you get on. That's the Midday Madness promise. Anything in the world of sport, anything from the world of football across the weekend that is moving you enough to pick up your phone and dial that number, we will get you on for the next 2 hours of Midday Madness. A little bit later on, we've got a couple of good interviews coming up later on. I'll just hold fire on who is coming onto the program. I think it's Tim English from the Dogs, and we may have one or two others as well. So looking forward to that. So Dog fans, I think it's Tim English coming on later on. 1300 736 736, though, the open line. Let's start with your calls, as we always do. And if you want to send through a text, 0433 98 11 16. The Tempur text machine, TEMPUR, Tempur, mattresses and pillows like no other. As I said with Sam, I think the statement that we hear quite often that all games are worth 4 points and they're all worth the same, I think it is garbage. St Kilda's win on the weekend was worth much more than the 4 points. It was a season changer for the Saints. That was the one they desperately needed to have. And I say the same about the Adelaide Crows. Round one beating Geelong at home, that was worth more than 4 points, that round one win for Adelaide, even though we hear, it's only round one. We've got another 21 games to go after this. What is the biggest story out of the weekend is the bottom line for me, because it's hard for me to work out exactly what the biggest story is. I think it might be the Saints winning coming from behind, kicking the last 8 goals of that game, actually getting their mojo back. That was the big issue for me. The Saints getting their mojo back was a bit of a statement that they're actually still in the running and their season isn't slipping away, even with a few guys out. That was maybe the biggest 4 points won on the weekend. Saints, I think it is going to change their whole season, and I think it's going to give them the belief. I think the 4 points Melbourne won also was massive. Matt Rendell said a week ago on this show, Melbourne can win the flag this year. I wasn't 100% with him at the time, but that's why we get experts on, because they often have a different opinion to you and they make you think. And Matt Rendell, after saying that, made me think. And, I think that's exactly what I'm thinking as well now. Maybe he's ahead of the game, Matt Rendell. That's why we pay him the bucks to come on this show. He's spotted something. Melbourne's fit, and they're playing a better brand of footy this year because they're fit, and the brand of footy that's being played this year suits them. So, I was in Ballarat on the weekend. I saw the Dogs live. They can win it, obviously. Big 4 points beating the Brisbane Lions, but I kind of tipped the Dogs anyway, even though it's a massive 4 points for them, because it proves they're the real deal. Port proved by beating Richmond that they can win the flag, but 2 massive injuries is a huge setback for them. And we won't talk about it much today because it won't generate much talk back, but the Giants as a club had the win they had to have as well. That was, I think, for Leon Cameron and the Giants, worth more than just the 4 points they won against the odds at the MCG, in arguably the upset of the round. I think the loss with the biggest repercussion for mine was Collingwood. I know Nathan Buckley said that he's fulfilled as a person, the flag, flag or not, and the premiership or not won't define him. But this season, I think he's becoming a pivotal one. The Magpies are 14th now, 1 win, 3 losses, and with the West Coast Eagles in Perth next. So Collingwood need the kind of win over in Perth that the Giants just had against them and that the Saints just had. A 4 points that's worth more than just the 4 points. I think Geelong's loss would be more worrying if the Cats didn't have North Melbourne at GMHBA Stadium this weekend, because by this time next week, as much as we can talk about whether the Cats are playing as good a footy as they should, the Cats will be 3 wins, 2 losses and inside the top 8 this time next week. So I don't think it's such a worrying 4 points lost for the Cats, given that they've got a lot of time to get it going. Same with the Brisbane Lions. In essence, 16 teams can still make the 8. The Brisbane Lions are 16th now, so it's a pretty healthy comp. Heaps to get to a little bit later on, but your calls off the top. 1300 736 736. Let's get it going. Midday Madness. You call, you get on. Jeff on the road. Welcome to you, Jeff.
G'day, Dwayne. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks.
I just want to talk about the Pie supporter, and I thought we were always going to be in trouble when we lost Trelaw, Phillips and Stevenson, So we sort of just struggled to make it last year. And our list this year has already declined, you know.
So how worried are you about the next, not just the rest of this year, but the next, well, I mean, Carlton, I don't want to draw the analogy to Carlton, but Carlton was this, when I grew up, Carlton was the iconic 70s heavyweight, perennially in the firing line to win a flag. And Collingwood's been a heavyweight for a long, long time. So Eddie's gone. I'm just worried about Collingwood if they start to drop off a bit like Carlton. They have a number of years outside the age, Jeff, what that means for the Collingwood club's iconic status going forward. Are you worried long term or just for the rest of this year?
No, I think we're going to be in a bit of pain for a couple of years. I think Carlton was poorly managed, to be honest. But
yeah,
I just think we've got to start playing these guys we've got in the 20s in the draft. So, because obviously the talent we've got at the moment, we haven't got enough. So we've got to build towards the future.
Yeah, can't kick a winning score right now. Third worst scoring team in the AFL. They need to find a forward. We might talk a bit later on whether it's Darcy Moore forward or what it should be. Jeff, I appreciate your call. Hold the line. You've got an AFL fan emblem coming your way for kicking off Midday Madness today. Martin in Glebe. Hello, Martin.
G'day, Dwayne. Thanks for taking my call. I've been away for a week and you may remember I rang you a couple of weeks ago and told you how the umpires got Collingwood over the line against Carlton, and that Carlton would bounce back the week after, and they did. And it was just good to see GWS beat the umpires again this weekend and get over to Collingwood. And it's lovely to see the D's on top, 4 and zip. And I understand what Collingwood, the supporters, the pain they've been going through. But we've got to try, and I've always rung up SEN for the last 12 months and made a statement about trying to keep Eddie and Buckley there. I think it's good. We must try and keep Buckley there forever. But on the other hand, it's lovely to see the D's gelling together. And I just happened to get the end of your statement a minute ago about Matt Randell. And Matt and I have agreed on, I have never spoken to Matt about it, but I've agreed ever since we beat St Kilda, because I put St Kilda up in the top 8 this year, and the mighty D's came back and beat them. So all the D supporters out there, fasten your seatbelts. And Sir Max is, we're starting to gel. We're getting the ball, getting first use of the ball, and we're making use of it. And to all the Collingwood supporters, I feel the pain that you're going through. We've been having pain like that for about 35, 40 years. So just hang in there forever, and one day you'll come good. But in the meantime, let's get those mighty D's home. And if not 1 year, maybe 3 or 4 in the next 5 years.
Thanks, Martin. We'll move to a few other callers. We've got a few on the line, but I appreciate your call and quite a few texts coming through. Collingwood's in trouble, Dwayne. Lost all their players. Alex, I'll read out a heap of your texts on the Temper text machine very shortly. 0433 98 11 16 if you want to send through a text. And I'll get to those. But as I've said a few times, it's Talkback Radio. I'd rather have a chat to you straight off the top for Midday Madness. So jump on that open line, 1300 736 736. Nick in Enfield. Welcome to you, Nick.
G'day, Dwayne. How are you?
Good. What have you got for me?
Yeah, just a bit concerned about the injuries for Port, Butters and Dersma. Obviously, they're key players. Who do we bring in?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Well, we know that Lachie Jones keeps his spot. He played a brilliant game on the weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the NAB Rising Star nomination from the weekend. Nick, I'm just trying to think who the emergencies were for that game. You got Tom Rockcliffe and a couple of experienced guys running around that could be brought back up, but do you want to go back to that well?
Yeah, you could. He's obviously really experienced. There's obviously Farrell as well.
Yeah.
Nice left foot. Could play on a wing. But I'm not sure. Do you play Houston on a wing?
Take someone out of the back line, play Houston on a wing. Play... Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Nick, let me have some think music on that. I'll try and work out whether or not I'd bring in one of the young kids like a Farrell, who's a good ball user. They're just tough. Butters and Dersma are so damn tough. That's where they're going to miss their ball using and their brilliance, but also their toughness. You need to bring in someone that's going to provide the same toughness. I appreciate your call, Nick in Enfield, and now I'm still got tears in my eyes that they bulldoze my old school there. Dan in Hastings, welcome to you, Dan.
Yeah, mate, how you going?
Yeah, good.
I just wanted to bring up something, bit of an unsung hero in St Kilda's game. I reckon Dan McKenzie's game was just as important as Max King, Dan Butler, and Jack Steele's game. Because like that tackle in the goal square with that missed kick from the West Coast player, kicking that goal, when the other players see the fringe player like Dan McKenzie applying himself like that, I think everyone lifts.
Well, overall, so it just depends on what you thought turned the tide. So you thought that turned the tide. What else did you think turned the tide for the Saints in that game overall? Butler's change of, the aggression of Crouch all of a sudden to be able to lay a couple of tackles and go hard at it. What else changed the game for you, do you think?
I think it was overall effort, like what Rats and everyone else was saying, just lifting the effort, bringing the intensity.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they were that far off it in the first half. West Coast were just a lot more accurate and effective when they went forward.
You're right, though. You're right about the depth players. Dan McKenzie, 21 possessions. Thinking about it, when some of your other guys who aren't necessarily your normal match winners start to bring that effort, it does change the way you look at the team, Dan. You believe your depth all of a sudden is going to take you to the promised land.
Yeah, you look at all the hard ball gets he got and rode bumps and got clean hands out to someone who was clear. He was really good. He was my biggest smiling moment when he got that tackle.
Good on you, Dan. I appreciate it, and good to have the Saints back in town. Dwyer, one here on the text. Nick Cox gets the nomination. Who does get it? Nick Cox, Lockie Jones, Lockie Scholl although he was nominated round 18 last year, Lockie Scholl, so you wouldn't think you'd get 2 nominations in 5 games. There's a few Swans coming through saying Justin McInerney deserves a nomination and the Swans should get another one. Is it absolutely certain that Nick Cox gets the nomination? Thanks for that text. One here saying that Nick Cox gets the nomination. We'll find out later today whether he gets the nomination or not. Kirk in Rover, welcome to you, Kirk.
Dwayne, how you going?
Good.
Good. Just Richmond supporter, just ringing up. Look, it was a great game Friday night, Richmond Port. I thought we did need the reality check against Sydney the other week. They're flying, the Sydney Swans. But I was just listening to Dimmer's press conference and I actually thought we're not in too bad a spot. So I'm still quietly confident about us this year. Hopefully injuries don't take a toll, but I think we're travelling okay. I know it's 2-2, but we're still early in the season.
100% with you, Kirk. The Tigers can't actually win anything until September. They'll be there in the firing line come the end of it. And, the Tigers could win it from 7th or 8th. If they put a good month together, we know what they can put together. So I'm not too worried. Of all the 4 points that were lost on the weekend, I think that's the one with the least repercussions. I think Collingwood's 4 points lost had the biggest repercussions, especially given they've got West Coast Eagles coming up in Perth this weekend. But, no, the Tigers, you'll be fine. Kirk, I appreciate your call. Ross in South Australia. Hello, Ross.
Hello, Dwayne. Just query, mate, if you can give me a bit of an answer or somebody. What's going on with Jack Gunston? I'm a Hawks man and I just haven't heard nothing.
Well, he's injured at the moment, isn't he? He's got trying to think of what his problem is. Yeah, he's I think he's back. So... yeah, well, back is it's a strange injury. Your back. It could be a week. It could be a month. I'm not sure how bad it is, but I'm told it's a back. I think it's a back.
Oh. All right, then.
I'll try and find something. If a Hawthorn fan knows how long Jack Gunston is out, let me have a look. I'll just flick to Hawthorn's injury list. They'll have it on their website. So I'll get an answer for you as to how many Hawthorn's website, and I'm trying to flick to it now. Jack Gunston, 2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks, it says, Ross. So 2 to 4 weeks for that injury. So
when's that from? Do you know? Or
it might be from the weekend. Yeah, that's right. I'll check that out as well. I'll try and find that out. So hopefully he's not far away. Are you believing that your Hawks can still make the 8, Ross, or not?
I believe if we can win 5 or 6 games, I'll be happy.
yeah, it's a big loss having Will Day.
Not having a good.
No.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I love my Hawks, but see, I could go to the internet once, but I can't see. I'm losing my sight, and I can't see nothing now like that. So I've got to rely on the radio and the TV to tell me things.
All right. Well, the internet's telling me, no, Ross. That's all right. Internet's telling me It's a back injury, 2 to 4 weeks, and the rest of your injury list, well, I've got you just to give you that info. Obviously, James Sicily's out for the year. Will Day is going to be out for quite a while with that ankle. And who else? Denver Granger Barras with a knee, still maybe 3 or 4 weeks away, the website says. Thanks for your call, Ross. Sean in Diamond Creek. Hello, Sean.
Yeah, hi, Dwayne. Yeah,
good.
Getting a bit angry about me Collingwood here. Cox and Hoskin Elliott. Nathan Buckley, he's trying to sign his own death warrant here. Why does he keep playing these two? Seriously, Cox has had 4 or 5 years. Nothing's ever going to change. What do you reckon, Dwayne?
Yeah, it might be time. This is the time to make some... It might seem like a crazy change, but he's shown so much faith in a number of these guys for so many years. Bucks, he's been... Mason Cox has been good, but only once every 5 or 6 games does he prove exactly what Nathan Buckley's faith is all about. So, yeah, I reckon now's the time. Who do you play? Do you move more? What do you do with your forward line? How do you kick a bigger score, Sean?
Well, I think they're going to have to. I mean, they've just got no choice. I mean, they're averaging 15.6 points a quarter for the whole season. I mean, and the footy's freed up like everyone's saying it has. It's no different than last year. They were pathetic last year, their forward line. It was it's getting embarrassing.
Yeah, third worst scoring team in the comp.
Big Harry Mackay at Carlton, and we got no one.
Yeah, it's you're right. Well, if you're a Collingwood supporter, you've been riding this wave for a while, believing Bucks is going to take you to the promised land, and all of a sudden this looks like might be one of the worst seasons ever under Nathan Buckley, the way it's travelling. I appreciate your call, Sean. I reckon that was the biggest loss with the biggest repercussions on the weekend. That was a game I really expected Collingwood. I thought they'd smash the Giants. I really did. And that was the biggest surprise of all the results to me from the weekend. Terry in Herne Hill, are you there, Terry?
Yeah, I'm here. Talking about the Cats yesterday. Now, I know a lot of people say that Geelong aren't playing good football. We've got a lot of players out. There's probably about 6 or 7 you can fit in your best 22 quite easily.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if they play that same style of footy they have been playing with those 7 players in there, there should be repercussions about other players that are in the side, like Dalhouse.
Yeah, look, just on the Cats, they have got a few out, but a number of teams have got a few out. Yeah, they'll get, hopefully Jeremy Cameron will come in and play his first game, and they'll get Dangerfield back from suspension soon. They've got North Melbourne this week, so they don't necessarily at GMHBA Stadium need to go risking guys against North this week, so they'll put that win in the bank. But I want to play you a couple of bits of audio. Firstly, I want to play you, I'll do it in about 10 minutes' time. Adam Tomlinson said today, speaking with Sam Edmund, that they thought Geelong was the most dangerous when they moved it quickly into their forward line. He thought he had Tom Hawkins covered, in essence, when Geelong moved it slowly. And that's what Sam Berry from the Crows told us after the round 1 win. Terry in Herne Hill, I appreciate your call. Back to your calls after the break. We'll take a quick break. 1300 736 736 is the number. Midday Madness, you call, you get on. Anything out of the weekend? What was the biggest story out of the weekend? Heaps to get to later on in the program as well. Things said by Ken Hinkley about the sub shouldn't be used for cork thighs, and yet Collingwood used it for gastro. Luke Beveridge reckons the soft cap cuts have stopped him from forward scouting as much as he normally would. Heaps to get to later, including Tim English has been confirmed as our guest from the Western Bulldogs after 2. Plenty to come, including your nominations for the Rising Star as well. A ton of those coming through. It might not be Nick Cox going by the text. A couple here suggesting that it will be Lockie Ash or Tom Powell. Back to your calls and your text next.
They're a world of pain. Where they go to West Coast without Taylor Adams, they are in a world of pain. And Nathan Buckley's going to find out whether the desire to be a coach still burns as brightly and as fiercely inside his guts as it did when he started. Because you know what Nathan Buckley is?
Do you think there's a question
100% this is what he has to answer. He said it himself. Don't worry, the year will sort itself out. I may not want to be here at the end of the year. It might be time. I hope that, because when, you know what Nathan Buckley's like, when he sets his mind to something, he's as fiercely single-minded as any person you'd come across. So the question for Nathan right now, he will ask himself, is to go, am I still do I still want to prove, am I going to go to the nth degree, the ends of the world, to build relationships, to drag people in, to start, rejigging? If that's there, great. Then go for it, and away you go. They've had great results over in Perth over the years when their backs have been to the wall.
Yep.
You need a response. Not the win, necessarily. You need the response.
Gary and Tim this morning, Collingwood, it's a pivotal moment. I know that Nathan Buckley has said, fulfilled as a person, but in his professional career, this is a pivotal moment for him as a professional in the business of coaching a football club. What do they do next, Collingwood? And a few on the text are saying drop Hoskin Elliott. A couple here saying drop Mason Cox. Thanks for that. A few of your texts. Craig and Bacchus Marsh, Pies in massive trouble. Buckley would do the right thing and walk away from the club. So it goes that deep, the assessment. High pipe, Collingwood need to drop Cox and Hoskin Elliott, bringing in Kelly and Max Lynch. Let's hope. I'm not sure how far away whether Kelly is okay or not to play. But thanks for that. It's not the forwards at Collingwood. It's the way they move the ball in. Gives them almost zero chance. We've been talking about Collingwood's ball movement for years now. That's the issue with Collingwood's ball movement. Matt Rendell raised it on this program over and over last year, and nothing's changed. Debbie in North Cranbourne. Welcome to you, Debbie.
Good, Wayne. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Oh, look, I'm first of all, I just think there's more to Collingwood's been having internal issues for as long as I can remember. I don't think Bucks is to blame. I think it's the people that the salary cap. It's decimated the club. Poor old Bucks. He's the man out the front. But Mason Cox, I just love the way what he brings to the ground. His second efforts. And, there's players like Josh Thomas. I don't know how he keeps getting a game. I mean, Will Hoskin Elliott has been a good player for us over the years, an excellent player, and he was all right on the weekend. But, these guys have been playing this game for years, their whole life, whereas Mason Cox, he's come into a new game, and I just think, he's not doing that bad. But I just wonder, too, how long are they going to persevere with Brodie Grundy getting all these tap-outs? There's obviously our midfield, we've got a great ruckman, but every other team beats us, and they don't have the ruckman that we have. So these midfielders are the issue. And Josh Thomas, why does he keep getting a game?
Debbie, there's no want to knock the ball into space to allow the midfield to run onto it. There's no want. Brodie Grundy likes dropping it at his feet. I don't know why they don't. If they don't trust their midfield because it's too slow to go and run and get it into space, then find some other midfielders with space. And put Isaac Quainer in there for some bounces. Find some pace and put it into your midfield and hit the ball into space to let players run onto it. Brodie Grundy's knocks to disadvantage or knocks to 50-50s. It's becoming a massive issue, and it was a issue that stopped you from getting into a grand final a couple of years ago. Debbie, love your call. I really appreciate your call in North Cranbourne, and if you like golf, I'm going to send you up to Club Mandalay, must-play course in Melbourne's North for 18 holes of midweek golf for two if you'd like to hit up there on us. Hold the line. We'll let you know how to pick up that prize. Max in Richmond. Hello, Max.
G'day. How are you going, Wayne?
Good, thanks.
I just wanted to say I'm pretty happy with how the AFL are going at the moment, and the competition is just really, really intense, and I'm just loving every single game. And besides North Melbourne, but everyone else is just going really well. And yeah, I'm just loving the change of the rule and how the change it to you can't move off the mark, and it's just opened up the flow of the game a lot.
It's been fantastic, Max. I agree with you. The weather dampened a few things on the weekend, made it a bit tougher. And Ballarat's got a unique set of conditions of its own. I mean, the wind was blowing a gale, probably worth about 3 goals to one end. And we don't get that very often, a 3-goal win to one end for an entire game. So there was some different dynamics on the weekend. There was a cyclone off the coast in WA as well that made it a bit difficult yesterday at Optus Stadium in Perth as well. The goal kicking... well, maybe it wasn't the win, but Nat 5 kicked 6 behinds. The goal kicking was well down for Fremantle, and Nat 5 stayed out after. So, yeah, the weather dampened it a bit. But, yeah, you're still going to have to kick a big score and move the ball well to win the premiership this year, even though it'll even up a little bit during the course of the year with defence starting to kick in a bit stronger. I appreciate your call, Max. Chris in Roxburgh Park, John in Adelaide, Stu in Harndorf, Mark on the Limestone Coast. I'm coming to you all. We'll take a quick break for some news and come straight back to your calls. Hey Pipe, Tom Powell could get the Rising Star nom this week. He was very good. Cheers, Noel. Absolutely, he was good. It's going to be interesting because, look, everyone thought after Nick Cox's performance, it's going to be Nick Cox. It's going to be Nick Cox. I thought that as well. But because it's, 5 days ago, does he still get the nomination? So thanks for that text as well on Tom Powell. One here, shift Treloar into the forward line for Collingwood. Worth 3 goals a game. Oh, that's right. Greg from South Perth. So there's a few preparing to sink the boots into Collingwood the way it's going right now. A break, back to your calls on Midday Madness. Go back to your calls and your texts. A couple on the Tempur text machine, TEMPUR, Tempur mattresses and pillows like no other. Lots coming through on the Rising Star nomination, who it should be for the round. Dwayne, the Rising Star, it can't be Nick Cox. It must be Scholl or Lockie Ash. Scholl was the best when it mattered most in the fourth quarter. Powell and Cox were both great. So Scholl, for me, 80% efficiency, 31 disposals, 1 goal, 2 and 8 score involvements, 8 marks. Scholl was all over the ground, maybe the best single game performance of any Rising Star this year. And I'm a Swans supporter, so there you go. It might well be Lockie Scholl, who is the NAB Rising Star nomination, which they will announce later on today. Tom Powell has been very good for 4 games. So there's another one added to the suggestion box as to how many games he's been good for. If it's a single game, even though he got nominated round 18 last year, Lockie Scholl, he might well get nominated again ahead of Nick Cox, who you'd think he'd get nominated sooner or later, the way he's playing. Thanks for that text. Chris in Roxburgh Park. Hello, Chris.
Yeah, g'day, Dwayne. Thanks for taking my call, mate. Look, I'm a long-suffering Collingwood supporter, but I wasn't surprised we lost on the weekend. That's the type of game we lose, when we sort of roll up and just think, just show up and take the 4 points. And on the flip side, this week's game against West Coast, on the road, under the pump, no one gives us a chance. That's the sort of game we normally win. So, we're like that. So, I give us a big chance this week. But, just in terms of changes, I agree with what you said about Grundy. He needs to have a look at the footage of Clark Keating playing in the finals in the early 2000s and just, start smashing the ball 20 metres forward. Like, if nothing else, when you come out in a game and do that straight off the bat, it sets the tone and, sends a signal out to the rest of the team.
Chris, I agree with you. Can I just back over that point? Because I made the same point last week. Now, if you back your forwards in and believe they're going to play in front and that your forwards are quick enough to win a 50-50 ball against their opponent, then, smash it. It doesn't have to be one. It doesn't have to be every second ruck knock that you smash. But to smash 1 in 6, at least it lets the opposition know, hey, we can surprise you with something different here. So you've got to find some quick guys. Otherwise, it just looks to me as if you don't trust your midfielders to win it in space. You don't trust your forwards to win the long bang to centre-half forward.
Yeah, exactly, mate. You got to try something different. If what you're doing is not working, I don't know why you persist with it. And secondly, I also agree with people who said it's time to give Darcy Moore another go in the forward line. Like, I know he was tried there early in his career before he kind of established himself as one of our star players. And now with the rule changes and all that, which are favouring the forwards so much, I think it's time to give him another go down there, because we bat really deep in our back line. The back line's not a problem. I think we can obviously we're not going to be as good without him in the back line, but I think, our back line's pretty good, and give him a go on the forward line and see what he can do.
Well, it's not about, hanging on and finishing a respectable 9th now, Chris. It's got to be about winning a flag, and you change things up to try and do something, that can enable you to be a scoring force to win a flag this year, because being a defensive team that's the 3rd highest scoring team in the comp, we've got a great defence and we keep teams to 10 goals. Trouble is you're only kicking 8 yourselves. Chris, I really appreciate your call. Stu in Harndorf, John in Adelaide, we're coming to you, 1300 736 736. Mark on the Limestone Coast also wants to talk about Mackenzie and the Saints. Ross in Fremantle, John in Port Augusta. I promise we'll get to you all. That's the Midday Madness promise. 2 hours of Midday Madness coming your way today. So stick around. The way it stands right now, I've got about 50 texts. I'm quickly going to read a few and then get to a few more after the break. Are the Eagles flat-track bullies? No, I think they're just really, 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 really good at home. And I think they were outplayed by a more desperate team in the second half on the weekend. So all credit goes to the Saints, but I'm not too worried about the West Coast Eagles. They'll be there when the whips are cracking late in this season. Ross Lyon to coach Collingwood next year. Take it to the bank. Thanks for that. Melbourne's rise, 2 words. Mark Williams, Miko from Reservoir. Keep your texts coming on the Temper text machine. I love it. But back to your calls next. Back to your calls and your texts for Midday Madness on the open line, 1300 736 736 for Werribee Kia, Australia's #1 selling dealership 3 years running. Couple on the text as well. Quite a few on the NAB Rising Star. Who it should be. Powell. Here's stats: 19 possessions, 16, 14 and 19 and 2 goals. Scholl, 23, 16, 18 and 31 and 1 goal and 1 BOG. Scholl for the Rising Star this week. Cheers, James. Thanks for that. Seems to be a bit of momentum heading towards Lockie Scholl and away from Nick Cox and Tom Powell. One here on the text as well. Far more chance of Michael Voss coaching Collingwood than Ross Lyon. Dwayne, I'd like to see Myercheck and Moore swap positions. Myercheck was recruited as a back and is rarely beaten one-on-one like Moore. Simon, thanks for that as well. Scholl killed it. Should be the Rising Star, absolutely. Jason in the Adelaide Hills, thanks for that as well. We're back to your calls. Quite a few people on the line as well. A couple talking about Tom Hawkins being an unnatural action and should be cited. We'll get to that later. But John in Adelaide, you've been waiting for a while. Welcome to you, John.
Yeah, good, Dwayne. Yeah, I was a bit annoyed that caller from Melbourne, that Martin, raving on how good Melbourne is. Jesus,
Yep.
you know, like they've got 3 coaches there. They've got Choco, Goodwin and Richardson, you know, 2 A-grade coaches, or 3 A-grade coaches coaching them. But Buckley's just going through a bit of a bad time. Injuries, I know there's a bit of poor players' efforts are not there, but hey, he'll get a ride. Like, geez, you know, people want to take it to him. Like, Collingwood were only a kick out of winning a grand final, 5 points, I think it was. You know, like, the guy's not a bad coach.
So you've got faith that he'll turn it around? You got faith that Nathan Buckley will turn it around?
Oh yeah, he's a fantastic guy. One thing I say about Nathan Buckley, when he talks, you listen. He is a smart operator. He's just going through. He's got bad injuries at the moment. You know, any side, Geelong and any other side, they lose 3 or 4 quality players, they will struggle.
Thanks for your call.
At this level.
Thanks for your call, John. One here on the text, watching Nathan Buckley in the box, he almost looks defeated and over it. So, yeah, there's contrasting opinions on the whole Nathan Buckley, what he's got to say, body language situation. So thanks for your call, John. Stu in Hahndorf, speaking of SA, welcome to you, Stu.
G'day, Dwayne. How you going?
Good, thank you.
Good, mate. Hey, I'm on Lockie Scholl as well. That text from Sydney, or the Sydney supporter, I should say, summed it up perfectly. I'll also add to that 595 metres gained, the amount of inside 50s 5, rebounds 56. So each time he gets the ball coming out of the back half, or as a player who's trusted with distributing it, he's putting it in the danger zone, boys. You know, and his defensive skills are there as well. 14 pressure acts, he tackles, he gets his own ball by way of clearance too. If he doesn't get it this week, I swear to God, there is something seriously wrong. Nick Cox will have his turn, but he sure as hell didn't have a better game.
Thanks for your call, Stu. We might find out before I go off air who the NAB Rising Star nomination is, and whoever it is, we'll have him on the show tomorrow. Mark in the Limestone Coast, welcome to you, Mark.
G'day, mate. Gee, all these unhappy Collingwood supporters is making my day as a St Kilda member. But anyway, and without sounding like a dodgy politician, how good is Brett Ratton? Seriously. Daniel McKenzie, 8 touches against Essendon, and he didn't get dropped. Ratton stood fat with DMAC, with Hill, with Butler. The whole AFL media was calling for Hill to be dropped, and he wasn't. So that caller that called in earlier and spoke about the tackle by McKenzie, he was, I didn't get his name, he was spot on 100. So good on you, mate, you were 100% right. The whole team, you could see it, you could sense it. That clubs always, you used to play football, you know that the clubs have whipping boys for the members, right? Every club, we used to have Jason Daniels. He was the whipping boy back in the 90s. Recent times, poor old Loney's been the whipping boy when we aren't going any good. And recently, if you'd been on social media, the amount of people calling for D-Mac's head has been phenomenal. And I'll admit it, I was one of them. Okay, I was on social media and Facebook St Kilda groups calling for his head. So I'll take that, and I'm just so wrapped and proud for him for how he played on the night. And lastly, Collingwood. I know exactly what's going on with Collingwood, but I'm not going to say.
Mark, thank you. Well, appreciate your call. All right, you just leave it with our producer off air if you like, and we'll follow it up. Ross in Fremantle, are you there, Ross?
Yeah, hi, Dwayne. I'm calling up about something in the Fremantle-Hawthorn game, but firstly, to the Collingwood caller who said their injury list, Collingwood have the smallest injury list in the AFL. Even Nathan Buckley said that, so that's completely wrong what he said. But in regards with the Fremantle game, did you see the Tom Mitchell Brayshaw off the ball incident that resulted?
I did.
In
Yeah,
goal
I've looked at it various angles, and I was calling the game yesterday for Fox and Channel 7 West Australia.
Yeah, so I think Tom Mitchell, even after the incident, was laughing and joking, knowing that he got away with it, totally faked and acted. With the AFL taking head knocks and concussions so seriously, I think acting and faking a head knock, I think is a bit more serious than it even used to, regardless of the fact that it resulted in a goal. And I'm just wondering if the AFL are going to look at that, because there was clearly no head contact, and Tom Mitchell was laughing about it afterwards, knowing that he'd really duped the umpire. So it's quite a big result. And then if you look at the fact that he's taking the mickey out of head knocks, and it's really difficult for the umpires to spot that. So, Ross,
I said it 3 weeks ago. I saw Dane Zorko do it, try to milk a free kick. Now, he might have got touched to the face, but he went down as if he'd been shot to the eye socket. So, yeah, I agree with you. If they're going to make it, they want the umpires to pay an instantaneous free if there's any touching of the head, because they don't want the head knock to happen. They want to protect the head. Then you've got to, and we talked about it yesterday during the call on Fox and 7WA, we might have to get a yellow card system the way it's going, because there's more faking this year than I've seen for a long, long time. I don't know if I'm just the only guy who's noticing it, but it seems as if because they believe they can get a free kick with the faking of the head touch, they're faking it more than ever. John in Port Augusta, come to you after the break. Peter in Brisbane, come to you after the break as well. 1300 736 736. The open line brought to you by Werribee Kia, Australia's #1 selling dealership, 3 years running. 2 hours of Midday Madness. Tim English is going to join us late in the second hour of Midday Madness, so whenever he's available, I think it might be around 1:30 or so, we'll take his call as well. We've got to get him on, but 2 hours of Midday Madness, so plenty more of your calls and your texts to come after the break. Straight back to your calls on Midday Madness. John in Port Augusta, welcome to you, John.
Yes, hello there, Dwayne. Just ringing about, even though I'm a Port man, I used to be, obviously, you know, the Port and Collingwood history going back to the 80s. A lot of Port supporters voted for Collingwood, then VFL and Swan Districts in the waffle and whatever else. But with the traffic between like Mark Williams, Jack Cale, Bruce Abernathy, all the Greg Phillips, all these blokes in the 90s, Nathan Buckley, I'm not anti-Collingwood at all, but I think Nathan Buckley will do the right thing by Collingwood in terms of if he feels he can't get any more out of the lemon, so to speak, he might do what Tony Shaw did in the late 90s and hand it over and just play the young blokes for the next coach to come through. What do you think about that situation potentially?
I think he's got to still try and win the flag. I don't think Tony Shaw was in a position where he could win the flag, so he had to do that because that was his only option. Look, if Collingwood need to win 9 of their last 7 games to make the 8, then different story. Then they play kids for the last 7 games and try and start the fire for 2022. But whilst you can make the 8, you've got to play as if you can make the 8 and win the flag, I believe anyway, John. So I wouldn't be necessarily, laying the red carpet down for another coach to come along just yet if I was Nathan Buckley. I'll be just coaching my backside off to try and get the best out of this season. And if at the end of the season they finish 6th, don't win the flag, you gave it everything you had, and it's time for a change, well, it's time for a change. But you never know. I mean, things can turn around. Look what St Kilda did mid-game on the weekend. Things can turn around quickly. Fremantle's turned things around quickly. The Brisbane Lions, they finished second last 5 years ago. So it can happen, but it starts with good recruiting as well, and I'm just a bit worried about Collingwood's list to go with it. Thanks for your call, Luke. Peter in Brisbane. Sorry, this is Luke. Welcome to you, Luke. Welcome to you, Luke.
G'day, Dwayne. Few things, mate. First of all, Collingwood's got to. I've said this since round one, since the struggle in getting in the forward line, and Buckley said he wants Mason Cox more up the ground to get that the high aerial player when we kick out of our back line. But then when we get past the centre of the ground, we've got no one to kick to up forward. Why not put Darcy Cameron up there, who's been our best player in the reserve so far in the practice matches? And why hasn't he done that yet? Also, Callum Brown, Will Hoskin-Elliott and Josh Thomas can't play in the same forward line all at once. They're too hot and cold. Will Hoskin-Elliott, the positive for him was he
Luke, news is on our agenda. I appreciate your call. Peter, Andrew, Jason, Raph, coming to you all after the break. Always great to have your company for Midday Madness. Keep the calls coming. Second hour of Midday Madness with Peter in Brisbane, Andrew in Hyatt, Jason in Beaconsfield, Upper and Raph in Meadow Heights. I'm coming to you all. I'll read out a heap of your texts as well on the Temper text machine, TEMPUR, Temper, mattresses and pillows like no other. Tim English is going to join us in about half an hour from now. Peter, welcome to you in Brisbane. Thanks for holding.
Hi. Last year, the 9f4 was broadcast live online. Do you know if the VFL is going to do the same thing?
I think there's plans for some pretty big things for the VFL broadcasting, Peter. I don't know what they are, but I've just been told that the AFL or whoever's looking after the VFL is looking at a whole new schedule. So I'll try and find some stuff out about the VFL, Peter, because I think you're genuinely going to be able to see it. We were talking on AFL Nation on the weekend about whether or not we should try and get the VFL on those spare Thursday nights now that the AFL hasn't scheduled on those Thursday nights. So I'll do some checking around, Peter. I definitely think you'll be able to see every game in some way, shape or form, whether it's online or even on one of the channels. So leave that with me, Peter, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But I think it's looking good for you. Andrew and Hyatt, welcome to you, Andrew.
Hey, Dwayne. Hey, I want to talk to you about Isaac Heaney. If he didn't break his hand for his punch behind play, would he have been suspended?
He might have got a fine for it, Andrew. That's a very good point. So he should have got a fine for it anyway.
Yeah, he should have. And I think it's been overlooked because he broke his hand. Everyone kind of feels sorry for him.
Oh, I agree with you, Andrew. That would have been a fine probably anyway if he hadn't broken his hand, so he should have been fined. I might... Hold the line. We've got something for you, Andrew and Hyatt. We'll send you up to Club Mandalay for a round of golf, must-play course in Melbourne's North, because that's something that I hadn't thought of, and it's a really good one. Yeah, sure, he's broken his hand, so it's bad luck for the guy, and it's sad, but it was still a punch off the ball. And normally that deserves a fine, so the AFL shouldn't hold back on giving that one a fine as well. Been a lot of people talking about the MRO findings this week. I agree, Tom Hawkins, no case to answer. So I'd agree with that, but that's upset a few people on the text as well. The Gibbons and Harbrow collision, the contest for the ball, I think Harbrow's really, really lucky that he touched the ball. I think that's probably his lucky out in that one against Gibbons. But even that was, if there was a suspension handed out by the MRO, it would have been understandable probably as well. And the Caleb Daniel tackle, I was calling that one live, and I think that they needed to make a statement that was a bad look, that tackle. That's the last thing we want in the game. So I'm okay with that one-match suspension for the MRO. But your point about Heaney's a good one. Jason, welcome to you, Jason.
Yeah, go, Dwayne. A few things about the Lions, Dwayne. We're treading water at the moment. We were lucky to get away with the win against Collingwood. But two players, Lachie Neale needs to be rested. Whether he says he's right or not, he's not right. 100%. You can see in the warm-up on the telecast he was struggling just to run. And Charlie Cameron, mate, I don't know what's going on with him, but he's like a petulant child at the moment. He's hooking, he's not tackling, he's not chasing, he's definitely not kicking goals, and he's on big dollars, but, what do you do with him? I just don't know what's happened to him this year.
No chemistry up there at all, Jason. I think Danaher had one kick to half-time as well. Now, it was difficult conditions for key forwards, but It just ain't working, Jason. Something's got to change. So you think Charlie being dropped is the thing that has to change? Or what else? They can't drop Danaher. Danaher's kind of competing okay.
Yeah, the midfield's definitely struggling with delivery, but Charlie Cameron's not chasing. He's got that weapon of speed. If he could just chase down and tackle, he's going to play himself into form, but he's just not interested.
Yeah, there was one where he was chasing the ball, and once upon a time, I think he would have sort of zip-zapped his way around and fed the ball to one side to pounce on it on the way back when it was heading toward the boundary. And he got caught holding the ball. He's out of form as well, Jason. So I think you could just drop him purely on the thought that he's out of form. Dermot used the sook word a few weeks ago. I think he's just out of form. And I think he probably does deserve to have a rest. Or something's got to change with the Lions. If Chris Fagan can flick a switch and change it immediately, well, he's a genius. They've got the talent to win the flag, the Lions. But at the moment, I think they're 16th as it stands right now. On the 40-winks ladder. So it's going to be, a pretty long road to work their way up the ladder to finish top two like they did last year. 40 winks, by the way, for a bed that wins every night. Head into 40 winks, that 40 winks ladder. Thanks, Jason. Mick in Balan. Hello, Mick.
Yeah, g'day, Dwassel. How you going, mate?
Good. What do you got?
Oh, mate, the Pies. Where do I start? A lot of people like to blame Buckley, but it's not Buckley. It's the recruiting staff and the list management staff. I think they haven't got it right. And to get rid of 3 quality players with whatever reason and to keep Hoskin, Elliott and Thomas in, I reckon that was a massive mistake. And also, Cox, he's getting a lot of the ball, a lot of his hands to the ball, but his hands just seem to be clumsy. He drops a lot of marks. He drops a lot of about 4 or 5 a game. If he just learns to hold on to them a bit more. Because the only way he can get beat in the air is if they chop his arm. So he's either going to get a free kick, but he's actually dropping them. And also, I heard earlier on that Kate Simpson wants to still play.
Yes.
I reckon Geelong will be a good fit. Isn't that the retirement village down there?
It is. Maybe they can give him a gig. Yeah, look, Kate Simpson, should Carlton pick him up again? I mean, if Kate Simpson wants to play, I can't see any other team picking him up, but there's a mid-season draft coming up. Should Carlton pick him up? That would be interesting. They're going kind of without him, but it's an interesting call by him that he'd still like to play. Thanks for your call, Mick in Balan. The interesting part about getting your hands to the ball, I know what you're talking about, getting your hands to the ball all the time, and being competitive and getting your hands to the ball and dropping it at your small guy's feet is something that we want key forwards to do. But I see Tim O'Brien's been getting his hands to the ball for 8 years for Hawthorn. That's the hard part. How long do you wait for a guy to start actually taking those marks? So, that's the other issue with Mason Cox, and Tim O'Brien's kind of the same, I think, having seen him again for Hawthorn yesterday live. But Hawthorn fans, what do you think they should do with Tim O'Brien as well? Thanks, Mick in Balan. Max in Williams Landing. Hello, Max.
Dwayne, how are you going? I just want to find out, with Jack Silvani getting injured, does that mean that Mitch McGovern could finally get a game after 4 rounds? And the other player I wanted to find out about was Charlie Curnow. Is he going to come back this year, or what are they saying regarding him?
Charlie Curnow, his knee injury is one that might take a long time and might see him not play a lot of footy again. So that's how bad the worst end of the scale is that Charlie Curnow, doesn't play much footy at all going forward, Max. So that's the hard part with Charlie. Now, he could come back later this year, but if he does come back, it's going to be late this year. Appreciate your call, Max. We'll keep our fingers crossed for him. Raph in Meadow Heights coming to you. 1300 736 736 is the number. Midday Madness, 2-hour edition. Tim English to join us later on as well. Stick around. Plenty still to come. Always fun to have your company for Midday Madness. Straight back to your calls and your texts. Tim English from the Dogs is going to join me in around 15 minutes from now. 1300 736 736, the open line. Brought to you by Werribee Kia, Australia's #1 selling Kia dealership, and the Temper text machine number 0433 98 11 16. Temper, TEMPUR, mattresses and pillows like no other. A few that have come through. Drop O'Brien, 100%. Spot on about Tim O'Brien. We have to keep playing Mitch Lewis and Kaczynski from Matt. Thanks for that as well. Dwayne, Collingwood's issues aren't the quality of players. It's the slow game they're playing. They're too defensive, and that's Buckley's responsibility. Peter, yeah, it's been talked about over and over again, the game style. One here on the diving as well. Should we have a yellow card system? I raised it a couple of weeks ago. Not a yellow card flashed at the player on the ground, but I think we should have a fine post the round. I don't even care if the fine's $1, but if you flop and you try and fake a head knock in this day and age, I reckon you get a fine, and I'm happy for it to be a $1 fine just for the embarrassment of it. One here on the text, Kane Turner flopped yesterday and got a free kick. And another one here, when I was messaging about Zorko diving the other day, no one backed me up. Well, I certainly backed you up. And one here, we all hung Dylan Grimes out last year. Only fair that we start pointing a few of the others out. So are you with me on that? Would you fine players after the round for taking the dives and flopping for head knocks that weren't really there? 1300 736 736, because there seems to be a lot of players doing it. Raf in Meadow Heights, welcome to you, Raf.
Hi, Dwayne. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Now, Dwayne, I need your help here. There's a wager on the line. That means I have to wear a Collingwood jumper. I want to know, did Anthony Hudson swear after Sean Darcy's goal in the last quarter, Fremantle Hawthorn?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
You need to hear it. It sounded like he did swear, and it's a big wager for me. I don't want to wear a Collingwood jumper or go to a Collingwood game.
Right, Raph, I'll make it. What time of the game was it? Because I normally watch the games back. I do anyway, so I'll be watching that back today.
Well, there was 13 minutes, 50 seconds to go. Sean Darcy's third goal in the last quarter.
All right, I'll check it out, Raph, and I'll be on this program tomorrow. I promise you I will be watching the game back later today, so I'll pause and slow-mo it to try and pick up what he said. I appreciate your call. Selwood would have half-inch wage given to the AFL. Well, I'm not talking about, ducking your head for free kicks. I'm actually talking about faking when you didn't even get hit in the head. One here, Dwayne, is it time to put the pressure on Chris Scott? I think the Cats are in trouble. I don't think they are in trouble. They'll beat North Melbourne this week, and then all of a sudden it turns around really quickly for the Cats. They'll be in the 8 this time next week. So it's their ball movement that's the issue. I'll get back to that very shortly, ball movement-wise, for the Cats, because it was interesting to hear what Adam Tomlinson said about defeating Tom Hawkins on SEN earlier today, about where it was easier when Geelong was slow and kicked it in high, and it was tougher when Geelong got it in quick and passed to him on the lead. So maybe Geelong does need to change its game style a little. Tim English, the Bulldogs have changed their game style. They've brought in Stephen Martin. Tim English is pushing forward. He's become a goal-kicking rock star, and he's been good enough to join me. Welcome to you, Tim. Great to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on the evolution of your career. You must be reasonably happy with the direction you're heading.
Yeah, it always helps when the team's got a little bit of success as well. So I think the recruiting staff have adjusted a couple of things in the off season, and Steph Martin coming in has freed me up a little bit, which has been nice.
So did they consult at all? Did they talk to you last year about what you might need for your own advancement?
I think they had a little bit of an idea. They did talk to me about that as well, and I think as a club, that area has just sort of been exposed a little bit at times when I was playing just the sole role. So I think it was a need for the club, and it's been really positive so far this season.
You're 23 years of age, so where do you see at the age of 26? What do you think your full forward or forward line ruck split will be time-wise?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. It depends a little bit on personnel and at the club, but I'm just happy that I've got the ability to work on my forward craft at the minute and try and develop that area of my game, because I think that's a really big strength of a ruck, if you can go forward and kick a few goals, or if you can play as a sole forward. So I'm going to keep continuing to develop that forward craft, and I've been lucky enough to be able to play in that ruck role as well throughout the early stage of my career. So if I can develop both of them and become stronger in both those areas, then I think it'll be a real big positive for the team.
3 goals, some big marks. It seems as if you've got the confidence to be a key man as a forward if you need to be as well. And I know you've got Josh Bruce down there and Aaron Norton as well, but it seems as if when it's your turn to go, you don't mind going.
Well, yeah, it helps a lot having those two down there. I think Bruce and Norton have been really good in helping me with and giving me that confidence to just go when it's my turn to go, because when we first started playing a little bit, I felt almost as if I'm getting in their way at stages, but I think that's the beauty of working with those two, is they're so selfless in their role, and they block for me and I try and block for them at times as well. And we don't really care who kicks the goals or who takes the marks. It's all about just functioning well as a forward line.
How difficult were the conditions? I know you normally play on the pristine marble stadium with the roof shut, so all of a sudden, and I know you've played at Ballarat plenty of times before, but was it difficult to judge the ball blowing a little further with the breeze and holding up a little against the breeze?
Yeah, it was a little bit difficult. It takes a couple of minutes or a little bit of time to adjust to. I think, funnily enough, I actually found it easier going into the breeze because it holds the ball up a little bit and gives me a little bit more time to be able to set myself and jump at the ball. So, yeah, it took a little bit of time to adjust, but those conditions weren't too bad in the end.
Top of the ladder, undefeated. The belief must be pretty high right now.
Yeah, I think the positive thing is that we've addressed a few things over the off-season that we needed to address, and we're implementing the game style that we want to play, and I think it's held up pretty well so far in the season, but we'll have another tough game against Gold Coast this week, and then GWS after that. So hopefully we can keep up this form.
Do you like the fact you've got a little bit of a point of difference, this high handball, high possession kind of style, and it seems as if I like watching football with a little bit of a difference as well, and it's not just a cookie cutter. Every team's not playing the same way.
Yeah, I think it's a positive thing for the comp, having different teams obviously playing different ways, and I think the way you play sort of depends on your personnel within your team, and we've got a lot of midfielders that are high possession winners and really creative with their hands. So we look to use that as much as we can, and then our run on our wings with like Bailey Smith playing as a wing now, his run that he generates, and bringing in Adam Treloar as well and his power and run, has really complemented the side.
Steph Martin's going to turn 35 later this year, so it's only a small window you've got to work with him. I mean, it might be this year and next year, but you never really know how long it's going to last. So, under this little regime, now's the time to strike. There's a premiership at the end of this year if you're good enough.
Well, yeah, it'd be positive if we can make finals. That's the sort of first step for us. And I think coming off last year where we had that disappointing loss against St Kilda, but a lot of boys gained a little bit more finals experience. But, yeah, like I said before, we don't get too far ahead of ourselves at this stage of the season. It's really early days, and, we've played some good football early on, but it's another challenge to be able to do that throughout the year.
Are you allowed to knock it where you believe is the right place to knock it when the moment's right, or do you have like a set parameter and the midfielders have to call it for you as to where you're trying to knock it?
I think we just try and work with the mids to pick an area before the game, so we'll have a look at opposition hit areas and their strengths out of stoppage and that kind of thing, and then we sort of develop a plan according to that. And our mids are so good under our feet that Steph and I are so lucky that even if we don't get it to the right area, they seem to be able to fight and end up winning that ball.
And your around the grounds work obviously is a pretty big part of your game that you've been able to bring to the table this season. So it's not just taking marks in the forward line. Are you getting less rests on the bench because of the lower rotation number?
We actually get more rest on the bench. It's changed our rotation system a little bit where we just spend a little bit longer on the bench each time we come off. So if that's once per quarter, you'd probably spend 4 or 5 minutes on the bench, whereas that could have been a quicker turnaround last year. So, I actually probably spend more time on the bench this season.
And were you surprised? Do you think the Brisbane Lions were a little fatigued by their stay away? They just looked to lack a bit of oomph on the weekend. Do you think they've...
I wouldn't say that. Obviously, it's tough for them to come down here for a game and end up being here for 2 weeks. And they obviously had that amazing win the week before. And then to travel down to Ballarat as well would have been tough for them. But, I wouldn't say they were fatigued or anything.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Tim, congratulations again on your performance. You're a delight to watch at the moment, and things are going pretty well for you.
Thanks, Dwayne. Thanks for having me.
Tim English, Bulldogs ruck forward star, 3 goals on the weekend. Dogs top of the pops right now, top of the AFL ladder, and things are going well for them. Their high handball game is something that other teams are going to have to watch because they're, I think, going to be able to play it right throughout the season, even in the middle of winter, and have success with it. It seems to be working well for them, so when it finds up later in the year, it's going to work to their advantage as well. The dry rickets. Nick in Glen Iris. Welcome to you, Nick.
Yeah, g'day, Dwayne. I just want to say I was there on Saturday and with the Saints, and I just wanted to say how much gratitude I had to actually be in the stands and to be able to watch live football again. I mean, with COVID last year, it was bloody heartbreaking to watch games without crowds. And as a Saints man, we're a tough breed of supporters. We've gone through tough times, especially between 2013, 2018, all those 5 years. And after last week's drubbing, it was bitterly disappointing to watch my team play like that. But I never once thought that I wouldn't go back to the football. And to go there on Saturday and see 16,000 people, it felt like 35,000, and it was just beautiful.
Crowds are down at the moment, Nick. Not everybody's as happy about the process of just being able to get to the footy as you are. Crowds are still, a lot of people are saying that until you can go without having to buy a seat and sit where you're sent and having to scan in, and you can't have your normal seat, can't sit with your mate's family, etc. There's too many speed humps in the way. Who have you been going with, and have you found the process okay? You've been able to get seats, and have you been enjoying where you've been sitting?
Yeah, I've definitely heard about the complaints among fellow fans. I'm very privileged and lucky enough to be a member of the club for 10 years now. I've been going with my uncle, and we're Saints members from my late grandfather. We've been going for 10 years, and so as I said, we've had some tough times, but I've just been super lucky to be able to go as members for the past 10 years, and I've always got spare tickets, so I always try to give them out to people who can't make it to the games. And I hope the AFL can get the ticketing right, because it is amazing to be back in live sport. Because I tell you what, I don't know if you were there on Saturday, but that crowd, once we were 33 points down, we were dead and out, and then, mate, with that pressure, we played like we knew we could, just like last year. And it's interesting to see where this year's going to go. We're 2-2, and you don't know. It's exciting with these new rule changes.
Great to have you, Nick. It's nice to hear someone happy about going to the footy and their footy experience. I really appreciate your call. 1300 736 736. We'll take a quick break for a news update. I was talking about Adam Tomlinson earlier on Mornings Today with Sam Edmund, talking about Geelong's ball movement and where and how he felt more comfortable under one particular ball movement by Geelong and more uncomfortable when they were quicker with the ball movement. Here's Adam Tomlinson on the defending of Tom Hawkins.
We work really hard together during the week just to be able to sort of cover for each other. And look, we both train on each other, and we've got some pretty big forwards who are pretty heavy that we like to sort of train against. So I wasn't sort of scared or nervous about the opportunity. I actually loved it, and being able to play on Hawkins for 3 quarters. And when there was a high ball, I felt really comfortable playing on him. It's just the way Geelong move the ball, and they kick it to him so well when it's low and out in front. It's really hard to defend. But every time there was a high ball, I didn't feel uncomfortable and felt really confident. But it was, when they move the ball quick in transition, he's a really hard player to defend.
So there you go. When they move the ball quick in transition, they're a really hard team to defend. It's pretty plain from that. Geelong should move the ball quicker for mine, because teams are setting up with Geelong being so predictably slow. Here's Sam Berry from the Adelaide Crows, and often talking to young guys with no filter, they tell you a little bit. Here's Sam Berry on the fact that Geelong played that slow, predictable game style in round 1 that the Adelaide Crows thought they'd play and were ready for.
From our point of view, I guess that happened because we did bring the pressure.
And I guess it's just their ability to kind of react and adjust to it. Maybe it wasn't quick enough.
But they played in this game the way that you planned, thinking they would play. So you had the plan ready to play against them with this style, thinking that might be able to win you the game.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of come into the plan, and I guess the toughest bit was kind of implementing it and executing it. But yeah, I guess we just didn't try to let them own the game, and kind of that possession game that they do like to play. And with our pressure, I guess we were able to minimise that.
Sam Berry from the Adelaide Crows, they were ready for it. 1300 736 736 is the number. Back to your calls after the break. Quite a few coming through. The incident that people were talking about in Hutto's commentary, he said thump. So that was the word that he said, and some have heard it a little different to that. Appreciate your calls and your texts. Back to them for more Midday Madness after the break.
And it's a Masters for Matsuyama. First player from Japan to win this Masters tournament in the 85th playing. The country celebrates a dream realized, and what a moment for that man.
Japan's first Masters champion, Hideki Matsuyama. Masters update for the Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X, the number one ball at the Masters. Hideki Matsuyama winning by one stroke from Will Zalatoris, although he won a bit easier than the one stroke probably says. He had a couple in the bank ready to go and spent a couple on the way in. He finished at 10 under. Mark Leishman shot one over in the final round to finish tied for fifth at 6 under. Mark Hayes will join us after 2 to wrap it all up for Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X, the number one ball at the Masters, the number one ball in golf. Back to your calls and your texts as Midday Madness, the 2-hour edition, continues. 1300 736 736, the open line brought to you by Werribee Kia. Make sure you drop down and see the team down there. If you're in the market for a new car and you haven't checked out the Kia range, drop down and see David and Aid and Janan and Jim and the team down at Werribee Kia. They've got a huge range of demo Kias down there for you to look at, and they're Australia's number one selling dealership 3 years running. Brent in Rowville as we head back to the calls. Welcome to you, Brent.
Thanks, mate. How you going?
Good, thanks.
Just want to say that we went to the footy on Easter Monday. We're Hawthorn members, my wife and my daughter and myself, and the whole process from getting our tickets to going to the game to finding our seats was a very smooth process, and I think that everyone is just being a little bit harsh and needs to, we're very spoiled, I think, over the last few years, and except for last season, with everything, and we've got footy back now, and everyone needs to just get on board and enjoy it and follow the process, and everyone does the best they can, and we found it faultless, to be honest.
Yeah, Brent, it was probably about 10 months ago now, and I'm in my 50s, obviously, and I went somewhere and I had to do the QR code thing, and I was with my daughter, and, I fumbled about a bit because it was the first time I was doing it, and my daughter kind of put me in my place and said, come on, as if to say, come on, you old fella, get your act together. You got a mobile phone. It's not that hard. Showed me how to do it, and I haven't really looked back since, Brent. So, yeah, it's one of those things that I had to learn to do it, and now that I've learned to do it, it doesn't seem as hard to me. But I understand that there would be a few people that haven't been able to quite get through that process to the point that the QR code and the ticketing is something that they enjoy is probably not the right word, but a process that they don't mind going through because of the times we're in. I appreciate your call, Brent. Hold the line. We'll send you up to Club Mandalay, a must-play course in Melbourne's north. On us, you can head up there and have a mid-week round of golf for 2, because I think we're going to have to get used to it this year. This is the way footy's going to be for the entire year. We might even get to 100% capacity for crowds across Australia at some stage this year. But I think the QR code and the ticketing and having to buy a seat, downloading it onto your phone, all that kind of stuff, I think it's going to be around for a while. So, if you want to go to the footy, it's just a little bit of a change we have to get used to. And one here from Alex on the text as well. People don't like change. It's strange, but some people just want to use their barcode members card to go instead. But, yeah, it's not as simple. And Gary Lyon mentioned this morning that he would have went to the footy, I think, on the weekend, if not for the difficulty of the process that he sort of couldn't really be bothered with in the end. Dwayne, you mentioned the yellow card system. This is from Chris in Castlemaine on the text. You're correct. It's time to look at it seriously. The AFL should not be immune to it. It will work in the AFL. Players would think twice. Yeah, I don't necessarily think we need to be having an umpire have a yellow card in his pocket to flash it, but I would like a fine post the round to say, okay, that's enough now. Or even it's your third strike. So we gave you a warning on the phone that no one knew about last week, but this week we're actually fining you for it because you didn't take the warning, the private warning we gave you 2 weeks ago. Thanks for that text. And I'll read out a few more of your texts very shortly on the Temper text machine. Once Kevin in Hawthorn has had his say. Welcome to you, Kevin.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Good.
Yeah, I'm a Carlton member. Yeah, I've been hearing people talking about the tickets, how some of them saying it's not a big problem. But mate, when you follow a club that's got a lot of members and they're playing a club that has a lot of members as well, especially like the Richmond game, we're only given 2,000 odd tickets because it was Richmond's home game. So to try and get 70,000 members who want to go to the game into 2,000 doesn't work, mate. And it's been really frustrating for a lot of members who I know of, trying to get tickets when you've got a big game on. And that's the biggest problem, where before we could just walk up, you get there early and got into the game. That was the big issue. Now we have it now. I've missed my first game was only last week I was able to go to. That was not last week, the week before. First time I've been able to go to a game, mate. And that's been so frustrating to get a ticket. And I've been a member for over 30 years now.
Well, let's hope we get 100% capacity soon. At least people may be able to sit in their original seats soon, which would be nice, and make the process of, even if you do have to reconfirm your seat or download something onto your phone, have the QR code ready when you get there, at least you can sit in your old seat if it's 100% capacity, and that would make people a lot happier. Dwayne, what are your thoughts on the Hawks? We are giving effort, but yesterday we set up all wrong. Mitchell, O'Meara, Warple, Shields, Phillips, Wingard in the middle. Looks good on paper, but Freo could walk out of the middle to attacking 50 with ease. Fremantle's midfield's good. So Fremantle have got a lot of young kids who are now evolving as a group of midfielders. They're looking all right, Freo. They're going to be around for a while. Now, they might not win the flag for a few years. They might simply play with the big boys in the 8. But I think they're 8 bound. I think they've got finals written all over them, Fremantle, with this list that they've got emerging right now. So pretty good signs, I think, if you're a Fremantle supporter. And that's probably one of the reasons why they made the Hawthorn midfield look pedestrian yesterday, because Fremantle has got a lot of really good young stars in theirs. Dwayne, Zach Butters subbed out three-quarter time after rolling an ankle early. That warrants investigation. Well, Ken Hinkley said this post-game on the use of the sub, and it's an interesting philosophical stance to take by Ken Hinkley. He said that the medical sub shouldn't be used for corkies, and yet Collingwood used theirs for gastro. So every coach is going to be a little bit different. Ken Hinkley could have subbed Butters out of the game, and he's going to be out for a month. So he could have used the sub for Zach Butters a lot earlier in that game, but he elected not to. Here's Ken Hinkley talking about when the medical sub shouldn't be used.
Like, I'll be honest, I don't want to abuse the medical sub. So people who've got corkies, they're part of the game, and it was easy to do it, but who knows, in a tough physical game, it may have been one that you just can't put back out there, that you have to hang on to. And, Cleary, Rosie, those blokes with corkies who are really bad corkies, but you just want to make sure you do the right thing by the game, and it might come late, and it's for concussion most of the time, and I'd like to leave it like that if we can.
Had reason to jump with his sub a lot earlier, Ken Hinkley, but elected not to. Interesting philosophical stance for him to take. Also interesting, the philosophical stance Alistair Clarkson took yesterday with the sub. We know that when they discussed the sub pre-season, the coaches, Alistair Clarkson said that he would like to have the sub for an under-21 player. He thought that it would be great for young developing players to be used as a sub. He actually had that opportunity to do that yesterday. So he had Kaziski as one of the emergencies, could have used a 21 and under player just to make a statement of his own, that this is how I want to use the sub, but he ended up using the 38-year-old Sean Burgoyne as the sub. So, yeah, a philosophy on the way it should be used, as opposed to a philosophy on the way that I will use it to try and advantage my team. Two completely different things obviously. Just in, Collingwood's confirmed that Taylor Adams will miss up to 10 matches with a high-level MCL strain as well. So that news just in. Horrible news for Taylor Adams and Collingwood. Still side bottom, and Jordan De Goey will be available for selection this week, Collingwood are telling us. Back to your calls after the break on the open line, brought to you by Werribee Kia as Midday Madness continues. 1300 736 736. Straight back to your calls and your texts. 1300 736 736. John in Croydon wants to talk Dustin Martin. Firstly, welcome to you, John.
Yeah, here you go, mate. Yeah, I love your show, and
thank you.
I really like your comments and that. But I know I see you had a go at Dustin Martin, that push in the back, and
when was that?
Against Port, and there was nothing said much about Robbie Grove's out of bounds where they got a goal through it. That's what annoys me.
I didn't say anything about Dustin Martin.
Well, then,
in the back, did I?
No, you didn't. I apologise. You didn't say it was, what I read.
Oh, right.
In the paper, I apologise about that. You didn't say it like verbally, but that's what I read, and I thought, well, nothing much was said about the out of bounds was well out of bounds. It just a bit made me a bit cross, actually. But anyway, and look, Port deserved it. Yeah. Port deserved it. But the umpires, I don't know, it's baffling this year. I don't know.
No, John, I appreciate your call. I haven't mentioned Dustin Martin at all today, and I didn't do that game for Fox, obviously, so I don't recall talking about Dustin Martin in a push in the back, but someone's obviously quoted me online as saying something about it. Drew, Ferntree Gully, welcome to you, Drew.
Just
you there, Drew?
Yep. You got me?
Yeah, you're on the air.
Yep. Okay. Just want to raise the two tackles of Shane Edwards on Dersma and Butters.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way he tackles, he's dragging the body down, and both those blokes now have got leg injuries.
Yeah.
I don't want to take him to the tribunal or anything like that, but that type of tackling, is that a bit savage, or is it a bit...
It's part of the game, Drew. It's part of the violent nature of the game. It's legal, that kind of tackling. And, some players, when they tackle, they tackle for keeps. And that is part of the game. It's a game that ends up with a little bit of injury attached to it, and it can be nasty. So, no, even though Shane Edwards might have been part of both of them, no case to answer for mine. I love the way Shane Edwards plays the game. It's not like he's got a history of tackling high. I mean, the lower you go, the more I like it in some respects for your tackling process, because you're taking the head out of it. So, no problem with Shane Edwards, but I appreciate your call. It's something that might have been looked at with a raised eyebrow by some people, but certainly not me. Tony and Q. Hi, Tony.
Yeah, Dwayne, which was the Fox game that you were calling yesterday? I thought it was the Geelong-Melbourne game, or not?
No, I called the Hawthorn-Fremantle game with Hutto, myself, Jared Healy, Jonathan Brown.
Yep, that's okay. I just love the three Dwayneisms from that game. The first one was shaking like a dolphin on the deck.
Right.
The next one was floats like a butterfly. And the final one, the big finale, the big feast still to come. They're the Dwayneisms from yesterday. I think they were sensational. On another note, Dwayne, I just would like to say, do you have any information whatsoever on the Glenn Bartlett situation, the fact that he's moving on as president, and I think it's Kate, I can't remember her surname to be honest, but Kate is taking over at the football club. Do you know any background on that?
No, I was really surprised by it, Tony. It came out of the blue, didn't it? I mean, I work with a lot of people in the football industry, and we talk about a whole heap of things that, might be done on the periphery. Not one person mentioned that this might have been on the agenda, Tony. So it was a complete surprise to me, and, even to the people that I was working with yesterday when I asked, did anybody see that coming?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it sounds as though it was a situation that was created by the board. In other words, effectively almost a vote of no confidence against Glenn and what he was doing. So I'm sure Caro will be all over it tonight on Footy Classified.
I'll be watching Footy Classified like I normally do, Tony, checking out all the footy shows and seeing what they do come up with, because that's the beauty of the industry we're in. Something like this happens and we all of a sudden read a little bit deeper into it, and we think, wow, didn't realise that was the process. But Melbourne right now on the field are flying. So if there's something happening off the field that we don't know about, we'll have to check that out tonight. Appreciate that. Chris in Camberwell wants to talk the D's. Welcome to you, Chris.
To hear from you. Dwayne, I wanted to comment firstly on Collingwood, then I'll tell you what happened about the Glenn Bartlett. I'm a member. Firstly, on Collingwood, Wiedemann was one of the biggest mistakes that, surely a famous name like that should have been in their junior squad. And I'll tell you what happened. There was a complicated deal done which allowed the year before Collingwood to get Jeremy Howe, which has proved a great get for Collingwood. But also, Melbourne did a deal with Gold Coast, and Gold Coast got Peter Wright at that time. And Melbourne had 2 picks in the top 10, which they took Oliver and number 9 pick Wiedemann. So that's what happened. I think it was a huge mistake to let Wiedemann go. I know he's injured at the moment, but his final games, he would have been invaluable to Collingwood, and I still believe to this day that was a bad mistake by Collingwood, and they've learnt from it with the Dacosses. And secondly, on Glenn Bartlett, I can tell you that he's still on the board, but because of legal work for his company, it wasn't possible to continue as president because he's been a lot in the news, which you've been hearing about the port of this.
No worries, Chris. I appreciate your call on that and the update in that regard. Alan on the road, quickly before we take a break for news. You there, Alan?
Thanks, mate. Listen, I just wanted to say, I'm here there, mate. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, mate?
We'll hold your call till after the news, Alan. I appreciate your call. Thanks for that. We'll take more of your calls after the break. Stick around. Plenty to come after the break. We'll have a golf update, but if you call, you get on. We'll keep your calls coming. A couple of other issues floating around we haven't even got to yet. So some more Midday Madness on Dwayne.
Worried about your walnuts? Worry not, my friend, because Manscaped have got you sorted. The Performance Package has everything you need to keep your boys looking great. And the Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver will have them smelling and feeling fresh. And right now, get 20% off and free shipping with the code SEN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code SEN. What are you waiting for? Manscaped have got you sorted. When it comes to ball sports, get on to manscaped.com.
World after the news. Always great to have your company for Dwayne's World. I really love the fact that you pick up your phone and you dial the number for Midday Madness, so I appreciate it. Love your texts coming through. Just love talking footy and sport with you. A couple of your texts that I haven't had a chance to get to yet, so let me read a heap of those out, and I'll come back to your calls before we talk some golf and some tennis. One here, Cox actually brings the ball down to a good spot. Tim O'Brien simply drops it, Wally. So there's a few of the belief that Lewis is the way forward for the key forward position for Hawthorn. And it's an interesting watch for what Hawthorn do with that dual key forward post. It doesn't matter if Nick Cox gets nominated this week or not. It's going to be between him and Goulden to win it at the end of the season. AG, thanks for that. Pies need a new president as we're a ship without a rudder. Thanks for that as well. Should the West Coast Eagles be worried about that loss to the Saints after the second half effort? Please give your thoughts on the Eagles. Greg in Mandurah. No, I think there's going to be a lot of teams this year that drop a game away, play a little bit lethargic footy, get beaten by a better team, have a bad half. The West Coast Eagles will be in the firing line come the end of the year, and they're going to be really, really hard to beat at home again. So in some ways, the West Coast Eagles would still be my premiership favourite. I appreciate that. Dwayne, can we talk about Richmond circumventing the man on the mark rule? Anytime Port would take a mark, the Richmond player would jump 1 metre corridor side prior to the umpire saying stand. Surely the ump should either reset the mark, warn them, or pay 50 metres. I'll be watching this on Thursday. Well, that's what you're allowed to do, and the smart teams are doing it. So you don't have to stand on the mark. You can actually stand inside where the mark would be and cut that corridor kick off. So once the umpire yells stand, that's where you have to stand. If you've been smart enough to move in and cut off that corridor kick before that, then you're absolutely allowed to do it. So thanks for that as well. But that's allowed to be done, and Richmond are smart enough to be doing it. Some teams aren't doing it. David Mundy does it again, Dwayne. Yeah, he just keeps on keeping on, David Mundy. As a Pies supporter, I can tell you that last week was the type of game that we tend to lose, and this week is the type of game we tend to win, Chris. So a few Collingwood supporters thinking they'll bounce back this week. Dwayne, with the success of John Noble in 2019, are there any players that the Pies could pick up in the mid-season draft in 2021? I don't watch a lot of Sandful and don't watch a lot of Waffle, so I don't know who is available in the draft to be picked up. But you would think if Collingwood has a spot on the list available, then absolutely they will use a spot on their list to try and get a player to add to their stocks. It'd be crazy if they didn't. Alan on the road wants to talk about Freo Hawthorn. Sorry for cutting you off before the news. Alan, welcome to you.
No worries, man. I'm on the road. It doesn't matter. Listen, firstly, thanks for your commentary. I find it always to be unbiased. It doesn't matter if you're doing Geelong, and yesterday was great. I just want to say something about my team, Hawthorn. I think the problem is, I agree with an article I read today. I think the problem is actually deeper than what people say. 4, 5, 6 years ago, we had an A-grader in every line and probably 2 or 3 captains running around. I think at this stage, maybe we have 1, maximum 2 A-graders, even though Chad Winger is not playing that well. But I just can't understand why they went in that 2 top heavy. I mean, they had Frost, Hartley, Hardigan, O'Brien, and I don't really understand why we needed 3 talls in the back line, because Frost and Hardigan or Frost and Hartley could have done the job, especially with McAvoy and Segler running around. See, they have, I know they're not even B graders, but guys like James Cutling and Finn McGuinness and Connor Downey and Ollie Hanrahan, these guys need to have a crack because there's no point in, because we had, to me, it seems like we had no run at all yesterday for about 2.5 quarters. And it was just awful to watch. And I don't like the fact that people say, oh, he's only 16 points. Had they kicked straight, what's his name? The captain, the ex-captain.
6 behind.
5. 6 behind. To me, you're kind of fooling yourself if you think that you're that close, because had he kicked 3 of those, they would have won by 40, 50 points, which is really where we should have been at. Do you understand why Hawthorn's not bringing those young guys, and trying with all these big guys who really, O'Brien hasn't done anything for almost a year and a half. And the comparison to the guy from Essendon is actually a bit embarrassing, because Cox is a hybrid between Bontempelli and O'Brien. He can run, he can mark the ball, he can do everything. Anyway.
Yeah, O'Brien's had 7 years, maybe even 8 years on the list to prove himself, and it hasn't quite worked for him. He takes that one good mark every few weeks, and you think, wow, he's going to be the next guy, but I don't think he's going to be the next guy. And I'm not sure what your depth is like, Alan, as well, but I was surprised. Hartley was brought in yesterday, which was a bit of a surprise to me, but you did rest Kazitsky, and I've noticed the word rest is interesting. He'll be straight back in this week, surely. And not playing Sean Burgoyne was another interesting thing to do, but they did travel him, and he did play as the sub, so it's another game towards his 400. But if you're going to rest a guy that's 38, might have been better off leaving at home. But anyway, Clarko's the master coach, 17-odd seasons in the game. He knows what he's doing. There's method in what seems like madness sometimes, and he looked a little top-heavy yesterday with not a lot of run in the team from defence, but at the same time they were in that game for a while and could have stolen it, a bit like they did against Geelong. So he's obviously doing what he can to keep the team competitive, and at least with each week they've been competitive. So you've got to give him that. Alan, I appreciate your call and some nice thoughts on yesterday's game. Anthony in St Kilda, you went to Ballarat. Welcome to you, Anthony.
Yes, mate. You there?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, look, I took the wife up there. She plays for Brisbane, and we had a great seat. We were in that grandstand there, just in front of the broadcast boxes, and we could look right across the other side just to see that crowd over there in the outer, which reminded me of the old days, suburban football, not type football. Listen, just quickly, what do you think, mate? Look, late in the third quarter, Brisbane had a bit of a run on. They kicked a couple of goals, and they got back to within maybe 14, 15 points of the Bullies, who played the better all day and deserved to win in the end, I guess. But yeah, just that when the ball was kicked down to the forward line there, the Bullies forward line, and the big fellow, is it Des English or
English? Yeah, Tim English. Yep.
Tim. He had a good day, didn't he? But that mark he took, it wasn't a mark, mate. No, I don't think it was a mark. I think he had first grab, but he didn't hold it for long enough. I think it was Adams he was contesting with. And to me, that changed the momentum of the game. It stopped Brisbane's run. What do you think, mate?
I thought he was slightly in front. So I thought he had an early piece of it and was slightly in front, and the umpire paid the man in front, which is the rule, even though the man behind, Adams, in some ways had more of it, but the man in front had it in his hands almost before, and he was in front. So that's the rule. So one of them, Adams, should have punched probably, but Tim English was paid the mark. Appreciate your thoughts, Anthony. Glad you had a good time down there. It is nice to have a bit of variation in the footy we get. As I've mentioned on this show a few times this year, we've got the full spectrum of footy back. We've got the high scores. We've got big goal numbers being kicked by key forwards. We've also got some hard slogs as well. We don't want all of one, which we were getting for the last decade, all of these defensive slogs and flooding games. You want both ends of the spectrum, and we're getting a few different ends of the spectrum, and we got one in Ballarat on the weekend as well. A game played in the Burbs with breeze affecting the game. Peter in Mill Park, welcome to you, Peter.
Yeah, g'day, Dwayne. Just got a bit of advice for everyone out there in regards to the ticketing. The best thing to do is actually download the Ticketek app. It has an option in there where you can go into your tickets and you can click share, and it connects straight to your contacts, and you can share it with the ticket with anyone in your contact list. So it just makes things a heap easier, and you can even view your own ticket in that.
Nice work. A little bit of an update. Thanks to Peter in Mill Park. I appreciate it. Speaking of updates, AFL.com is confirming that Stephen May will miss 2 to 4 weeks with a fractured eye socket. There's a photo floating around of him and his eye injury, and it doesn't look nice. So all the best to Stephen May, I should say. All the best to Stephen May, and hopefully he's okay. It's been confirmed he's out from 2 to 4 weeks. We're going to get a golf update after the Masters very shortly, and a tennis update to talk a little bit of tennis. But Peely's got an NBA update before we take a break. You there, Peely?
Dwayne, I'm certainly here, mate. How are you?
Yeah, cool. What have you got?
Just quickly, I made note of my good mate Dermy, captain of the Inverleigh Reserves last week. Just want to give an update on his weekend. Won the toss, won the game, best on ground, and he's also got the beer prices reversed back to $5 a can.
Nice work, Dermy. What about the NBA today? What's been happening?
We had Zion Williamson continuing on with his hot form. He had 39 today for the Pelicans over the Cavs. Just want to make note of Dallas. I think they've been this year's biggest disappointment. I backed them to be right up there challenging this year. Spurs beat them today, and I think Luka Doncic was red hot last year. Today, he did go okay today, but in a whole this season, he hasn't been up to where he was last year, which is disappointing. We had Boston beat Denver today, which is a little bit of an upset. Tatum had 50 points on the weekend, and he had 28 today and 10 rebounds. Jokic had a triple-double in that game too. He's moved into $1.45 for the MVP. Gamble responsibly, of course, but I can't see him losing that one.
Good stuff, Peely. And will the Clippers beat Denver? I think there's 3 minutes to go in that last quarter, and there's 4 the diff. Detroit, Clippers, I should say. Detroit?
Yeah, no, not Denver, yeah. Clippers, you'd think class will get over the top of Detroit, or pretty thin. You'd think the Clippers, if they're the real deal, they should win that.
You would think that. Peely, thanks for your update. A lot of people enjoy it. Ray and Ashwood, we're coming to you. Trout and Woodend, we're coming to you. 1300 736 736. There's plenty still to come in Dwayne's World.
So Tay Adams, as you would have seen, had that knee incident with Brody Grundy falling across his knee. Has a high-level MCL strain that will keep him out of action somewhere around that 10-week timeline. So it's really disappointed for Tay. He'll meet with the surgeon today to assess whether he does go under the knife for that. But regardless, at this stage, he'll be looking at around a 10-week return to play time frame.
That was Collingwood's high-performance manager Kevin White on Taylor Adams' injury that's going to keep him out for quite a while. Been a lot of text come through today about who the round NAB Rising Star nomination should be. Nick Cox, Lockie Scholl, Lockie Ash, Tom Powell, Lockie Jones. So thanks to everybody that sent through a text on that. SEN or AFL Nation have a Rookie of the Year award for MEGT, your local apprenticeship expert. So just to clarify, the AFL Nation Rookie of the Year award, a second-year or third-year player can't win it. So Lockie Scholl played last year. We've got a nomination for the NAB Rising Star round 18 last year, so he can't win it. So the votes from the weekend: 1 vote to Tom Power, 19 disposals, 2 votes to Chad Warner, 23 disposals, and 3 votes to Nick Cox, 18 disposals and a goal. That's what our experts have given me to let you know of for MEGT, your local apprenticeship experts. Call 13 MEGT today. It's from the AFL Nation experts for the MEGT Rookie of the Year award. Ray in Ashwood, welcome to you, Ray.
Welcome, Dwayne. Always a pleasure. Saints were good for a quarter and a half, but we need to win that, I think, for the full game. I was getting a bit worried. They were 33 down. I thought, that's it, we're gone. But that sort of game style is very taxing on the bodies and players every game the whole season. And also, I think this year we're better placed than in past with depth in most areas. Which I think what keeps us in good stead as well.
Yeah, no, Ray, I think you have got good depth. Paddy Ryder hopefully comes back, and you've got a number of players that are out. But look, every team has got to have an injury worry at some stage this year. Port Adelaide's got a couple of its key players now going to be out for a while. We know Fremantle's had a heap of players out, including a few defenders this year. It doesn't get talked about all that much, but they've had a number of players out. So, it's the bottom line is you're just going to have to cope in that period when you got guys out. And the Saints have come out of this period okay, given what they were able to do to turn it around in that, an amazing turnaround, really, in that game against the West Coast Eagles a couple of days ago. Thanks for your call, Ray. A Masters update for the Titleist Pro V1 and Pro VX, the number one ball at the Masters coming away with Mark Hayes from Golf Australia. But before that, Trout and Woodend. You there, Trout?
There you go, mate. 2 quick points. One, with the guy rang up about the ticket check. He's correct. You can share it. But the person you share it has to have their own ticket check account and a current one, not one that's been sitting there for 5 years. Otherwise, you've got to start a new one. So he's right what he's saying, but those people have to have a ticket check account to view the ticket. Also, the other thing I want to know is, have you noticed creeping in since this stand and mark on the man stands on the mark, every player that goes on the mark jumps 2 steps forward, 2 steps sideways to the right or the left to move towards the centre of the ground, and it actually opens the angle up better for the player. I don't understand why they're doing that.
To cut the corridor off, Trout.
Yeah, but they're trying to cut the corridor off, but they're giving him a better angle.
Well, they're letting him get that angle wide, I suppose, is what they're trying to do. If he wants to run wide. The other thing is it depends on whether he's a left footer or a right footer. So if you want to push the guy, if he's a right footer and you jump 2 steps to the right, for example, or your left on the mark, then you're kind of putting the pressure on him with his right foot kick and saying, okay, if you want to go on your left, away you go. I'm going to give you that opening wide toward the boundary on your left. So that's often a method of their madness as well, Trout. They're opening up the option that the player, because you know which leg he prefers, doesn't want to use.
Okay.
Thanks for your call. Tom in East Brighton. You there, Tom?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks. G'day, Dwayne. How you going?
Yeah, good.
Just wanted to bring up the incident with the Robbie Gray handball through the goals against Richmond.
Yeah.
I heard Kane Corns' interpretation of it, and he was sort of more or less saying that was 2 requirements for that to be in the rules. It needs to be within 9 metres of the goal line, and it needs to be under pressure. In my opinion, if Robbie Gray was under pressure, I think it's been a while since Kane Corns has played footy.
Tom, to me, if it had knocked that ball on the ground and knocked it through, I don't think that would have been controversial at all. But the fact that he had the time to pick it up and then handball it through gave me the indication that he could have done something else with it. He's such a high-skilled player. If he's got the time to pick it up and handball, then there were other options for him. He wasn't under as much pressure as some thought that he was, including the umpires, Tom, to me.
I suppose there's also a difference between someone getting up from off the ground because they're in a marking duel and being close in proximity as opposed to someone actually looking like they're going to tackle him.
Yeah, well, Tom, if he did that at the boundary line, he would have been 100% done. But he can do it through the goals, obviously, because deliberate rush behind and insufficient intent still has this grey area of difference between it. Appreciate your call, Tom. Thanks for jumping on the line, and it was worth chatting about, no doubt, because it was pretty controversial, and I would have probably, if I was the umpire, paid a free kick against Robbie Gray for doing it the way I understand the rules to be interpreted. But the umpires know more about it than me. Mark Hayes has been good enough to join me from Golf Australia. Masters update for the Titleist Pro V1 and Pro VX, the number one ball at the Masters. Welcome to you, Mark.
G'day, Dwayne. An amazing day of golf at Augusta National, as they always seem to be on the final round.
Yeah, the greens were slick. There was a little bit of pressure on Hideki Matsuyama in the closing holes, but once his main opposition hit water, it was all over.
Yeah, well, it turned out to be a bit of a stroll the last couple of holes, but till the 17th fairway, it was anyone's game. And Hideki Matsuyama, Japan will just be some sort of golfing fantasy land over there at the moment, because he just had the entire nation hanging on his every move. And when he stuck a 4-iron from the top of the hill on the 15th into the water behind the green, his lead shrunk from 4-2 very quickly. But remarkably, just as soon as Xander Schauffele had come back into play, he too had a triple bogey on the 16th, and the challenge sort of dissipated really quickly. But yeah, just a huge day for Japanese golf.
Were you surprised by Schauffele finding the water? Was he being too attacking? What was the method in his madness there?
No, I heard him talk afterwards. He said he hit it well, and the wind just knocked it down out of the sky and turned it left and just landed on the bank and into the water. So he said he's got to add a different shot to his repertoire for next time he goes round there. But his damage really for him was done when he knocked his third one after he took a penalty drop into the crowd at the back. And there's just no stopping the ball on those greens if you're in the wrong spot. So, look, Schauffele's got a growing reputation as someone who's in the mix, probably not unlike Mark Leishman at majors, which is a great thing to be. But by the same token, they both want to get over the line at some point soon.
And overall, the Aussies were kind of better couple, like Mark Leishman in the firing line, but close enough, but not close enough.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. I think they'll be disappointed with the chances. Leish just didn't have his best putting stroke on today. It was actually disappointing. He putted really well the first 2 days without playing well, and then when his irons were sharper on the weekend, his putter went cold. So it was top 5 in the Masters. There's nothing to sneeze at, obviously, but I think he'll be a bit flat the way his Sunday went. Cam Smith, his third top 10 at the Masters in 4 years. Another great achievement, but again, probably just feels like another one slipped through to the keeper there. So, yeah, it's not a bad result for the Aussies, but two in the top 10 of the Masters is nothing to sneeze at, as I say. But, they'll probably rue one that got away.
So it's going to be massive now in Japan. First ever Masters winner that's been Japanese. It's going to be huge there. What do you think is going to be? I mean, they've got so many good sports people at the moment, Japan.
Yeah, it was really interesting, Dwayne, in the call on the CBS commentary. Nick Faldo actually said if Hideki Matsuyama hung on to win, which obviously he duly did, that he figured the golf was so large in Japan that Matsuyama would end up playing a part in the opening ceremony. It's so big would his result be, because golf's just crazy. They're crazy for golf in Japan. So, it's going to put a real sting in the Olympics. They've got a lot of great athletes, but he might be the number one man in terms of the Olympics for Japan in August. So it's incredible.
So could he hit a fire-lit ball to light the cauldron? Could we see that?
That's what we're thinking. I reckon we're going to see one of those arrows flying over the arena, or one of those Titleist Pro Vs